The amount of stuff I got done yesterday, like even a year ago, would have taken me an entire week, if not longer. This Mac Mini setup where it's always running, if I was working on one of these projects on my MacBook Pro, the day is over, close my MacBook Pro, like the session stops. Versus now, these agents are still working on whatever I've given them. And then it's like, I can check in and be like, oh, they got stuck here, do this. And then they continue working.
Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Hybrid Engineer Show. This is a show about how people actually use AI to do more ambitious work. Not just which tools they use, but how they leverage AI to build products, run businesses, make better decisions, and overall operate at a level that was unimaginable just a few short years ago. The goal of this show is simple. Every episode should leave you with practical ideas that you can take into your own work. Whether you're an engineer, a founder, a creator, an operator, or simply someone trying to leverage AI in their daily work. I want these conversations to show you what is possible and how you can start applying it immediately. For this first episode, I'm joined by Caleb Kruse. Caleb is an entrepreneur and creator with a background in paid social. He's known online as Mr. Paid Social, and in just a few short years has grown to more than 400,000 followers across his channels, building on a decade of experience in the industry. Caleb and I have known each other and worked together for a few years now. This goes back to when I was at a startup and he was a client working for a big company. Since then, I've had a front row seat, and it was amazing to see his progress using AI to push further and further into the technical side. What makes Caleb especially interesting is that he does not have any sort of formal technical background. Yet AI has allowed him to compress years of technical learning into a much shorter path and turn ambitious ideas into real products and systems. In this episode, we get very practical. We talk about how no-code tools were the bridge that allowed Caleb to understand how software works and to actually start building his own software. How he uses AI to create content, run a community, and his entire business operations. How he created a reproducible playbook that allows him to build, ship, and run entire SaaS applications. And how much or how little, the answer might surprise you, he spends every month on AI tools and tokens. There's a lot in here you can take away, whether you're also trying to build your own apps or create content, or trying to automate parts of your business. And now, let's dive right in. I hope you enjoy this conversation. All right, Caleb, so good to talk to you. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Let's just start simple for those that don't know you. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you currently building?
Yeah, so my name's Caleb Kruse. I have like an internet creator personality called Mr. Paid Social, where I talk all about like advertising, automation, and AI, and mainly just like how all those intersect. And yeah, I think I'm up around 400,000 followers across all the different channels. My primary channels are like Instagram and TikTok, but I post on like YouTube and LinkedIn as well. And lately, a lot of what my content has been around, as well as the projects that I'm working on, have all been kind of focused around Claude Code, and using it to kind of integrate these workflows together, whether it's like building ads in a really streamlined way, or using it to generate like AI images for ads or videos for ads without having to know how to like put together these complex like image and video prompts and like know how to use all the different tools. So basically leveraging Claude and Claude Code in a way where it can kind of like be your knowledge base for all things that you're doing in your business, specifically for advertisers. And that spans from like, the images being created, the ad copy, competitive analysis, all the way down to like actually getting the ads launched into your ad account and like integrating it with like any third-party API you can think of. So a lot of what I do right now as well is I work with a partner and I work with a lot of brands, and most of them want me to kind of like build out these custom workflows, highlighting like how their tools can be, leveled up with something like Claude Code. So like ARC ads is one that I do a lot with, as well as like, I'm doing some stuff with Airtable that's pretty cool, where like actually right before we hopped on, I was finishing up a workflow where very similar to this like SaaS tool that I've been working on called AdTable. .ai, which Robbie, you've actually helped me a lot with. It's like a tool for using Airtable as kind of like your central database, if you will, for all of your ad building. But in this workflow, it's using Claude Code as kind of the connector between Airtable and Meta, using the Airtable MCP as well as the Meta Ads official MCP. So
Nice.
you can kind of like talk to Claude Code, have data show up in Airtable, have it there to like look at, audit. You can even create them in Airtable, and then Claude can kind of take that data and pass it off to Meta.
Nice. And you've been already using a lot of the like terms like APIs and MCP and stuff like that. One could think that you're technical, but you basically weren't, or not aren't. You are now. You are in the driver's seat of like building all these integrations and like making stuff work with each other and connecting stuff. And how is your journey into that, like becoming technical? How's that been over the last 12 months, basically?
Yeah, the trajectory of like automation like started with these very step-based, node-based workflows like Kitchen or Make.com and then N8N. And now we've kind of evolved past that where it's like chat interfaces now, where you can kind of string together these like complex automations and workflows, but rather than doing it like one step at a time in a node and connecting things and like, you know, having to make sure things don't break and all that, you can kind of just in natural language tell the system what you want. And I think having the fundamentals of like working in those like node-based interfaces have helped me quite a bit in being able to articulate with systems like Claude Code around like what the vision is and like how things need to be connected. Because without that, like I don't know that I would have the acumen. In like the last 12 months, I would say like, yeah, it's accelerated so much with where like vibe coding and tools like Claude Code and Cursor, Codex have emerged now, where like, I mean, I was vibe coding with ChatGPT chat a year ago for my adtable.ai product. And that process looked like asking it a question, copying a script, pasting a script into another tool, seeing if it worked, copying the error, pasting it back into chat, waiting for it to give me a response. It's just like me just doing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And now literally I can just be on my phone and be like, hey, Claude Code or whatever, like build me this thing and like run through iteration testing and all that on your own.
But even then 12 months ago when you started and you were generating code with ChatGPT chat, but you were also not like then deploying that into some of your own system, but you were basically just using it as scripts inside of tools like Airtable and so on. So you were basically jumping onto the no-code tools and leveraging them to do a little more than they were doing out of the box by scripting, kind of. And now you're like building, shipping, deploying, and running full apps with like actual users. And so that's been a hell of a 12 months.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. It's really been crazy. And like, you know, I think the process of taking an idea, like making it into a multi-tenant standalone software product like what Adtable is now, like, and it's not like a super scaled business by any means, but just, you know, even just the process of like going through learning all of the different steps of like development and like the infrastructure of how everything needs to be set up, you know, like having a database somewhere like in Supabase, having the web interface be hosted in a place like Vercel, leveraging tools like trigger.dev for, you know, some of the like scripts and automations that run behind the scenes, and then being able to like work in that environment once it's built, give the AI all of the context to that entire infrastructure and architecture so that you can easily like ask it to make changes and it knows exactly which tools to pop into. It has all the environment variables that it needs, and it can do like 90% of the work for you at that point.
So cool. What did you think lowered the barrier of entry for you most in like getting into these tools? Because I remember from what you told me that a lot of those things that you just mentioned, like even just terms like environment variables and deployments and stuff, seemed scary to you as a more non-technical person. Like, when did you feel that switch, not be scared of, you know, doing something wrong?
Yeah, I had a couple sessions where you kind of gave me like a brain dump of like, here's how all this stuff works. That was really helpful. I think what really solidified it for me was when I realized that like everything that you had helped me build for Adtable and shown me how to work could just be like that playbook could be copy pasted into like other internal tools that I need or other SaaS ideas. Like you kind of gave me like a playbook, if you will. And then once I started spinning that out into more and more use cases, it was like just getting reps in of like, okay, I have an idea for like, I want to be able to look at hooks for content that are going viral in my niche without having to scroll through Instagram. Like maybe I can find an API that like has all the content out there and I can just like narrow it down and put it into a database and like all this stuff. And then just kind of workshopping through that idea with AI, like even just like on a walk, like in voice mode and like talking through like, here's what I wanted to do, here's what I'm thinking, how I would use it. Here's what I want to spend on the project. Like just kind of like having literally a conversation with either ChatGPT or Claude, like in voice mode. And then after that, like having it put together like a plan, and then just having it execute that plan. Again, like providing it with like access to all the different tools and the keys and everything, and then just letting it do its thing, and then like having enough of those where it's like, okay, I understand a little bit more like what needs to be in the plan. Now I know a little bit more like what I should include in the prompt, to get like a better output. And then like, even like just using the tools themselves like Cursor and Claude Code and all that, like getting enough of the back and forth with the AI agents where it just gets like, I can almost just see the whole like path from like A to Z,
Mm-hmm.
like how I'm gonna get there. I think I've realized that it's like all about context.
Mm-hmm.
Like the more context you give your like AI dev environment, the better result you're gonna get.
What does your current tool stack look like for doing that? Like, what is the dev environment basically you're working on? How you are getting context into that stuff?
Yeah, so I've got right now I basically have like a folder in my computer that has a bunch of subfolders. Every subfolder is like its own project. So I've got one for ad table, I've got one for, all these different tools. And then I've moved that whole kind of like environment onto a Mac Mini recently. So everything that runs kind of like at a computer that's always on in my office and like in here. And then I have it set up in a way where I can basically spin up remote sessions through Claude Code, either from my phone or from my MacBook Pro, which is over here. But everything's just always running on this machine, so like it always has the full access to everything. Versus like, with Claude Code or Cursor, like you can do like cloud sessions where it can connect to like a GitHub repo, and that's great if you're like, really need to like make a change or something on the fly. But often there's things that aren't included in that, like stuff that is get ignored, meaning it's not part of that repo, that might be crucial to like your AI agent being able to execute the task efficiently without you having to like catch it up to speed and like explain in a lot of detail. So like something that I do locally in my dev environment is whenever I'm working on a project, I have it create this like master architecture doc MD file, where it's like if there's anything that we changed in that session, it's instructed to update that MD file. And at any time I start a new agent chat, it's going to read through that architecture document so that it understands fully like the context of the project. And then I have a second MD file that basically is just like a session log of like everything that was done, everything that was tried, gaps that still have, so that way you're not having your agent try something that it's already tried and failed at the start. And it like eats up some context at the beginning of the session, but like for at least for the things I'm working on, it's not been an issue so far. And then yeah, in terms of like the actual tech stack, it's like I've got Claude Code or also Cursor that act as like the agents, like the AI agents. And then sometimes like everything just exists within that, and I'm just using Claude Code or Cursor as like my VA or whatever, or like I'm just telling it to do stuff, and it has all the stuff in its project. There's some instances where like I'm using Claude Code to help me build out like an autonomous automation, where like that lives in trigger.dev, and it's basically like either things that can be triggered via a webhook or can be on like a cron schedule to happen at a certain cadence, or like some other triggers that you can kind of like string together. But those are meant for things that like I just want to run like every day, not have to worry about it. Like yesterday, I just finished two automations that I'm really stoked about. One of them is I run a private community on school, and there's a lot that comes with that, right? There's like DMs and comments and posting content and all this stuff. So I built this school agent now that one of the things that it can do is actually like every 7 days scrape who like joined the community 7 days ago, and then look at their onboarding questionnaire, any messages that they like we've already sent each other, any of the courses that they've already started taking, so it has full like context around everything that they've done within my community. And it takes that and it drafts together basically like, hey, you've been in the community for 7 days, just wanted to check in, I saw that you started this like course, how's that going for you? Also, I saw that you didn't introduce yourself yet. Here's the link to the post where you can introduce yourself to the group. But it just does that automatically, sends me a Slack with each one of those DMs with a button that I can just click to accept, and then it will shoot the DM to the user.
Awesome.
Or
Okay.
I can respond in the thread and like edit it, and then it will send that edit. So that alone, just like, it's something now I don't have to think about. I don't have to like be on my phone and like scroll through and like go through that whole decision tree. Like AI can care of like all that. Where I can just like, I don't know, release a lot of the mental load of some of these
Very
things.
cool. Yeah.
Like, you do that.
Yeah, it sounds like basically making sure the agents and the AI has the context that you have, but you're even making sure it has more context than you could ever have, like to really personalize, for example, the experience of your customers in that school community and the community members there to like have even more context than would be humanly possible for you to have, like the specific context around all their usage stats and everything. That's super cool. Would you mind how that specific workflow, for example, looks like because you
Yeah.
mentioned trigger.dev might be interesting to see like the actual infrastructure of this.
Yeah, absolutely. In trigger.dev, I have all these different basically like project groups. So like add table, everything that pertains to my SaaS lives in this one. Everything that's just like an internal automation lives in here. And so there's all of these different tasks that it like basically AI have created for me. So I've got this is one that I put together yesterday. That's a brand deal inbox schedule task. And so I can click on it and see like it running on a schedule. I can click in here and see exactly what it's doing. Like it's basically combing my inbox in my Gmail for any like direct inbounds that I'm getting for brand partnerships. There's like a LLM component in here. It will comb my inbox, look at like what they want done, and then it will do some background research on like the company and get a better understanding of like what I might be able to pitch them for content creation. So like if it's like, oh, this is like an AI startup and they don't have any funding and whatever, then I'm like, okay, well they're probably going to be like at the low end of what I would charge for something like that, versus like, oh, this is like maybe it's an AI startup, but they just got millions of dollars in funding and they're aggressively investing in content creators right now. So you should be more aggressive with your ask. And then it kind of like does that background research for me, writes a draft email, and then in Slack, it'll send me a summary with a detailed like draft of an email to send the brand. And then I can like just one click approve. or reject or change the draft. So like basically kind of like stringing together these automations to do things like maybe I would normally have handed off to like some like a VA, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you're using AI not just for, you're basically using it across the whole stack from like a creative sparring partner to a high level dev that works for you to like a VA that handles work for you to it augmenting kind of yourself and like offering a more personal experience. One of the genius things of what you built with Trigger Dev, which is this like stable running workflow engine, is that you're using, because you're not like writing these workflows by hand, right? You're having
Right.
them being written by Claude Code. You're basically using the probabilistic AI to write deterministic workflows that then like run with some AI component maybe inside, but that are basically like deterministic workflows that you can audit and that you can trust to run. So it's not just like generating random automations where you just, throw something in and have the LLM do its magic, but it's actually like step-by-step playbooks of stuff that's actually business critical to you with just like minor AI components, but the whole thing was generated by the AI. So you're really leveraging this in that way, which I find really interesting, very cool. Yeah.
So right now I have one that's running to refresh my recent views. So I built this dashboard, dashboard.mrpaidsocial.com, which like basically this is connected through multiple APIs for like getting my content views and like all my content from like Instagram, Facebook, like all these different channels, right? And this updates every single day. And then I also have like this like last 48 hours one where it'll show me like content that I've posted in the last 24 hours or the last 48 hours. There's supposed to be like a graph here that will like show, kind of like the view change throughout the last 48 hours. So basically what this is for is like helping me spot when some of my content is like maybe going viral or popping off. But then it's like I've got all these views and like charts and everything like that help me understand like what moves the needle for my content business, as well as like my entire content library. So I have every single post I've ever created over the last 2+ years.
And you used AI to scrape all that for
Yep.
you, right? And
Yep.
to now like have it connected to the APIs and stuff.
Yep, exactly. This is what's so cool about like having AI integrated into something like this. Is not just like a static database. Like I have it like these two tags. I had it just like transcribe every single video, so it has the transcription, and then it's able to use basically vision, where it takes screenshots of multiple frames of each piece of content, so that it can understand what the content style is. So like I have this quality one here, where it's like, is this lo-fi or hi-fi? So like lo-fi, my phone, it looks very like raw, and then there's hi-fi content, higher quality content, better lighting, better audio, all that good stuff. But my goal in like having some of these tags is I can start to ask AI, because this all lives in a database. It's all hosted in Supabase, like all of this data. So I can interact with this data in two ways. I can come to a dashboard where it's like views and like saved ways that I want the data presented. And then there's like, I can just on my phone like open up my dashboard project and ask it questions about the data, in real time. So I could be like, hey, of the last like 7 days, like what are you noticing about my content that seems to be popping off, and like what should I do this week? Or like, because it has every single transcript in the database, I can ask it to like help me write scripts on new content, because it understands like my content style, and like it can see which types of content have gone viral. Like we've got this like total view column here. So like kind of going back to like the context comment, it's like setting up these like environments where you're giving your AI agents full visibility into like these different pockets of your business, so that it can like really be more of like a strategic thinker versus like a dumb intern.
Yeah, very cool. I think this is a great example of like your ability to work with AI to create something that was previously basically impossible for you. And what I'd love to understand and see a bit is like, how do you, when you start a project like this, where the dashboard you just built, where does a project like that start? And you having an idea to having a product like this that you use yourself?
Yeah.
And if you want to walk us through like how you actually use Claude Code for that, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So the first step for at least for like these two, like more or less like dashboards, analytics projects, it's getting the data connected and hosted somewhere.
This is like a new session in Claude Code, right?
Yeah.
That's where you start.
Yep. And right here, like you can see, I've got this like SSH connection here to my Mac Mini. And then I can like basically browse, click on this coding projects. I can see all the different coding projects that I've got going on right now, and basically just open any of these folders. A lot of the ones I'm working on right now, like if we go to the school one, I can select that folder. And then now anything that I like prompt in this environment is going to have like all the instructions and context for the school, everything that I've been doing with school.
And do you write those instructions yourself, or is that also something basically AI does with you for you?
Yeah, so at once I get to a point in a project where I'm like, okay, there's a lot of moving pieces here, or if it's a project I know will end up that way, like I know it's like a more than just like a one-time thing. That's where I'll like just ask Claude like, hey, I want you to create a rule in, for yourself where, you create this architecture file, update it, read it every time you start, in this session file, read it, update it every time you start. And then what it does is it knows to update its own Claude MD file. And that Claude MD file is kind of like the set instructions for the whole session or the whole like environment. And so in the Claude MD file, that's where it's like you're setting the rules and telling it which documents that it needs to like pull from and update and whatnot. And the same process exists in Cursor. And that's actually where I did it the first time, was using Cursor to kind of build out that kind of like context refresh rule. If I want to SSH into it, I can do this. I've got this like little app that Cursor built for me called Claude Remote. And this is, I can click on it, it brings up this little just like app, very simple, but it shows all those folders that were in my coding projects. And then I can also have like pinned ones at the top for favorites. And then what this will do, so like I can select school here, click launch, and then this spins up a remote Claude Code session, which like is slightly different than SSH from my understanding. But like this remote session is running in the terminal of my Mac Mini.
Okay, nice.
So like it opened it in a browser because that's just what the app I created does. But then if I go back to Claude Code desktop, and like, yeah, right there, it shows the folder like name plus like the time that it was opened. And then now I can like say anything to this and it is running in terminal with remote control basically on my Mac Mini that I can control from my MacBook Pro. Or if I open up my phone, I can go to Claude Code, and then at the top here, let's see if it focuses, it shows like the school.
Okay, nice. So it's all the same. Like you can access it from wherever you are, whenever you need to. So, and it seems like you really look at this, that like whatever problem gets in your way, or like whatever thing you have to solve, you just now like have Claude Code or one of the other tools you're using build a tool for you. Like you're kind of building this like loop for you where you never arrive at a point where something is basically impossible. Like you're just like, all right, I need this tool. All right, build me a Mac app that I can just control that
Yep.
fixes this specific problem, or build me a dashboard that makes it visible for me and understand my school community better. It seems like the recurring theme here of like you solving problems by building tools by and basically never running into a hard stop where it's like this is too technical or this is not solvable.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's awesome with it too is like yesterday I was working from home because my son was sick, and so I wasn't in my studio making content, but I had a bunch of projects I wanted to move forward. And so like yesterday I was like building my follow-up automation, working on my dashboard for school. I was having it fix courses that it created for me. I was having it send a churn DM automation, doing my brand deals agent, like, and basically what I'm doing is I'm just going to check in on all of my workers periodically, and like if they're stuck, be like, it's like, okay, here's some decisions or whatever I need to make. So rather than me like working, I'm just making decisions, and the AI are just like the ones executing everything. And it's like the amount of stuff I got done yesterday, like even a year ago, would have taken me an entire week, if not longer. Even just 2 weeks ago, I didn't have this Mac Mini set up where it's always running, where like if I was working on one of these projects on my MacBook Pro, the day is over, close my MacBook Pro, like the session stops. Versus now, I can be done for the day. These agents are still working on whatever I've given them. And then it's like, if I'm on my way home at the stoplight or whatever, I can check in and be like, oh, they got stuck here, do this. And then they continue working. If I was working in an office and then now I'm, for better or for worse, a workaholic, abusive manager that is sending my agents texts in the middle of the night, like,
Yeah.
so it's like they're like continuing to move things forward, without me having to like be in the office or be on my computer. Like I can be in my sauna, I can be in my hot tub, whatever. Like, you can just kind of like wherever,
yeah,
move these things forward.
One more interesting thing that I'd love for you to show us is like how you use AI, not just for the technical stuff you're doing, but for the actual work that you were doing manually before. So you have this background in paid advertising. That's still a lot of the stuff that you do also in like advertising for your own community or for clients. You are now using these tools to do stuff that you'd never think possible before for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I've kind of been working on this ad builder agent here, where like this. So I'm gonna whip up a remote session here so we can do some show and tell with it. But so it's gonna pop up here, ad builder agent. There we go. So this ad builder agent, if I go into the folder, I'll just show you kind of like under the hood a little bit of what's in here. So we've got like all of these like scripts and files and contexts and all this stuff, where it's like basically it can do more or less everything like a media buyer could do. Like I have this like media buyer brain file, which like basically ingested my entire like last 2 years from my my ad account that I run for my school community.
Okay, nice.
And it's able to like distill how I make changes into like basically a brain. So like if I wanted to hand off, the actual media buying part of this to an AI agent, it would know the full context around like, okay, I'm not just gonna like day trade this ad account. I'm gonna understand like Caleb, based off of the history of the ad account, he seems to make changes to budgets maybe like once a week or once every other week, or he's making new ads once a week or twice a month or whatever. And so it just has all that context. But then it's like I've got all of these other skills where it can create AI images, AI videos, it can write the ad copy, it can, launch them into an ad account for me. So like, if I was like, help me create some new image ads for my private school community, then it could basically run through the series of skills that I have. Like, it looked at the project context, and it's going to just kind of like get to work giving me some ideas.
Nice. Yeah.
And then it's also, what's cool about this is like, because I have access to this anywhere, I could be out and about, like scrolling on my phone, see an ad that I liked in the wild, and then like screenshot it or save the post, and then like just give it to Claude Code and be like, hey, help me reverse engineer this ad for my own product or my own service, or like straight up just copy it, and like use these different tools, like these different AIs. So we've got like Nano Banana or whatever. So like I can click Nano Banana. Where should the finished ads land? It's asking like specifically what like ad set they want to land into. What angles do you want the new ads to hit? And it's like giving me a couple like content kind of pillars here that I can choose from, or I could just like specify exactly what I was thinking. So maybe like we'll focus on the curriculum for this one. So then now it's gonna like basically put together some ideas for me, and then it will actually generate creatives for me off of those ideas firing off. I think this is using like the ArcAds API right now, but there's like other APIs as well. Like, you could plug in the Key API, which is much more affordable, or you could do Higgsfield or whatever. But the point is, like, there's all these different like generative AI model aggregators now that you can just pump into here, that where it gives you like a lot of flexibility into where you're building this stuff out.
And you have those connected either through like CLI tools or API descriptions and environment variables that you have in your account, or like even MCP tools. So you basically have this core setup, and then you can always come back to the folder where all of that is already done. And it says here NVK is present, so it knows how to do it. Okay, cool.
And then like my workflow with this stuff is like, if I'm ever in here doing this and I'm like, maybe I'm doing a slightly different workflow where maybe I'm like, oh, I want to take organic content from my Instagram and I want it repurposed for ads, and I want Claude to like edit the video for me or whatever, like, because it can do that now. Then that might be something where like I start just doing the workflow once in Claude Code, and then after I'm happy with the output, I'll just say like, commit this workflow to a skill that exists within this repo, and then like all of the skills then kind of like have context for the like Claude MD file, right? Where it kind of knows. You can almost think of the skills as like different employees, where like it knows which skill to tap for which request. So that way, even in plain English, if I do like a slash command or whatever, it will still like know like which of those skills that it can call to like do what I'm trying to get it to do.
So you're kind of the CEO of the Claude MD file, is taking on the role of like a middle manager, and it knows like which of your requests to route to which kind of sub-agent or skill, or like which skill they actually use to get the work done.
We're like 4 minutes into this specific request so far, but like it's already created a generate school curriculum, like all this code.
So it's like generating code to then generate an ad, and which is a lot of this stuff seems to be working really, really well for you. I'd just be interested in like, is there anything that AI does not do, or is there any place where AI does not yet work for you in a way that you would want it to?
I mean, my biggest like barrier was not having it being like cohesive across all my devices. and I just solved for that. And now I'm trying to think through like what is the next thing. I think, you know, sometimes even with giving it as much context as you give it, like it's not gonna just like always know to reference it. I've been doing some research right now around like using tools like Obsidian or some of these other like AI brain building tools that can kind of like extend the context of your AI agents. Um, and I think that's probably like where I'm gonna go next in terms of like figuring out how to level this system up to a way where it's like even more robust. Like right now, for example, it's like I have all of these folders that all exist in like my coding projects. I've got all these folders, right? And each one of these folders has their own like environment variables, has their own whatever, but like my tech stack might be exactly the same for all of them. I think over segmented in the way I've got this configured where I kind of want to switch things up where like there's I think a tool where you can kind of put all your environment variables for your tech stack online and then just have all of your projects reference that, so like it has full access to your entire tech stack like anywhere, so you don't have to like keep re-authenticating and getting new API keys and stuff for every single project, because I
Makes
think
sense.
like that is something that slows me down. Like if I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to this one's going to be my Instagram testing agent or whatever, that I want to do a specific thing, but then it's like part of the setup for this might be that it needs my meta API key, which exists in like 5 of these other folders, but I still have to go through and like make sure that it gets access here. So that's like I think one thing that I'm trying to kind of solve for right now.
Yeah.
Um,
So there's
is
still
like
some like plumbing to do in terms of getting everything set up. And that's probably going to be like a constant task of like iterating to get it to the point where it actually works with your setup in the most effective and efficient way.
even though I'm only working in this video editor agent, Claude can still know at a high level all the other projects that I'm working on and be like, oh, I know that you did this in this other project. And I think there's like some ways that can happen already just through like Claude memory. But I ideally would have this set up where it's like no matter where I'm working, what I'm working on, I can like share knowledge across everything and not have
Yeah.
to start over from scratch or directly point, you know, like for example, yesterday I was working on this Airtable Claude Code MCP. I referenced this ad table code, which is like this is like my entire SaaS that I've worked on with you, Robbie. And so I referenced this folder in this new project and was like, study it, understand like how these systems work, and then put a plan together for me to like basically rebuild this entire system, but using the meta ads MCP instead of the ad table. And that was like really helpful because it started the whole project off with like basically 2 years worth of work that I
Have
did
like a head
already.
start.
Yeah. So
Cool.
yeah, things like that. And then I think, we've got models that are coming out that are just so much smarter. Yeah, I think AI writing is, I'd like to see that get better. It's better when you have like more of the context, right? Like it knows how I write LinkedIn posts. It knows how I like script my videos now. Like my stack right now is still very much like I have to be the proactive one to start something in Claude Code. But then you look at tools like OpenClaw and Hermes where it's like that's like truly autonomous agents that can kind of like look at the business and like make decisions without you. I think that's where like things are headed, and I haven't dabbled in there yet, but I want to kind of figure that piece out.
Really, really interesting. I think that kind of comes to the point where a lot of people are talking about not prompting anymore, but just having kind of stuff run in loops, where the loops are kind of the autonomy that does things, and you just basically give the direction of where the loop should go. And that sounds kind of like maybe an in between, but before you go fully autonomous with like a Hermes agent or something running your business. But very cool. All right, this worked for a few minutes now, and you actually got some ads out of this.
Yeah, so it's got a couple just like curriculum focused ads. And this is all just information that's scraped from my school community page. It's got like kind of the school-ish layout here. Yeah, I mean, these are kind of cool. I don't know if I would like run these as is, but also let's see. It looks like it actually went through the whole process of making the ads.
It's really cool because you just gave it like a very broad task, but as you were talking about before, like making sure it has access to all the context you need. It was able to gather the context, and it like got some of the stats for what your community offers and stuff like that. You didn't have to like reprompt that. You just like told it to in the context of this repo.
Like the fact that all I had to say was help me create some new image ads, and I told it what model to use, where to put it, and like kind of what to focus on. Like I barely gave it any input, and I have finished ads in my ad account. I can click edit, and I can see like basically all the different stuff that I put together. What's really cool is like I have this set up where it uses basically like the top performing 5 variations of ad copy already. So like they're already in here preloaded,
Nice.
as well as like multiple headlines, multiple descriptions. Like I didn't have to write any of this stuff. And it follows like the Advantage Plus enhancements that I allow on and off. So it like already has all that. Like it knows how I build ads in this ad account and just follows that. Which like, anyone who is in building ads in Ads Manager will tell you like the amount of clicks you have to do now.
Yeah.
Probably at least 5 minutes per ad. So like, the flip side of this too is like if I didn't want to do AI ads, like if I didn't want to have it generate the imagery or videos, I could just give it a Google Drive folder and say I've got this batch of 500 ads that I need to get live. I want you to like analyze each ad and transcribe every video so that you understand the full context of what the ad is promoting, and then like reference the top ad copy in the ad account, and then like literally I can have it write new ad copy based off of what's doing well, but that is specific to each new ad, and then do like 5 different ad copy formats within that. So like you end up with like 5 times like 500 variations of ad copy that it just does for you, and then builds the ads out for you. It's like doing that manually would take an entire day or entire.
And basically managing an actually human team doing that used to be your job just a few short years ago, right? That was basically what you were doing, and now you have the leverage of an entire team working for you, but there's not actually any human involved, which is pretty insane that we got here.
Yeah.
Would you mind to share like what your rough spend is for AI tools every month? Is that like?
Yeah. I think I'm on the 200 a month like max plan for Claude. I think I'm also on the 200 max plan for Cursor, although I feel like I need to like reduce one of them, but for now I'm still going back and forth. I was all in on Cursor, and then I figured out my Claude Code kind of remote system, and I'm really jiving with that right now. So I might lower my credit usage on Cursor. And then other tools, probably another 200 to 500 just in like Trigger Dev, Supabase, GitHub, Vercel. It's probably even less than that. Those are like pretty small subscriptions, like $20 to $50 each.
And it's amazing how far you get basically on the $200 of tokens in the Cloud Max plan. And
Yeah,
I mean, all in, we're talking about sub 1K spend a month on everything. And
yeah,
that's like compared to even like a single, even a remote VA would put
more
you.
than that.
Thank you so much for sharing all this so openly and taking us into the workflows that you're doing. I've even learned a few things that I'll take away from my businesses, and yeah, appreciate it.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, this was super fun. Thanks for having me.